For over 150 years, the story of human origins has been dominated by a single framework: Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection. We're told we emerged from a long, slow process, primitive apes adapting over millions of years into modern humans. It's presented as settled science, a smooth and unbroken line from primitive primate to Homo sapiens. In school textbooks, museum displays, and nature documentaries, the path looks inevitable. Random mutations improve survival, successful traits pass to the next generation, and eventually we, with our language, cities, and technology, arrive at the top of the evolutionary tree. This version of history has an elegant simplicity. It reinforces the idea that humanity is a product of blind chance, a cosmic accident in an uncaring universe, and crucially, it leaves no room for anything interfering in our development. But what if the neat, linear story isn't the whole truth? What if the ladder of evolution has missing rungs, gaps so wide they can't be explained by gradual change alone? And what if some of those leaps look less like accidents of nature and more like deliberate interventions? This is where the cracks begin to show, and where our journey starts. If the Darwinian model is complete, the fossil record should show a steady progression with countless transitional forms gradually evolving over millions of years. But that's not what we actually find. Instead, the fossil record reveals long periods of stability, species barely changing at all, punctuated by sudden bursts of new life. Entirely new forms appear abruptly, fully developed, with no clear ancestors. This pattern is called punctuated equilibrium, and it sits uncomfortably with a slow and steady narrative. The most famous example is the Cambrian explosion, around 541 million years ago, when nearly every major animal group appeared within a geological blink of an eye. No gradual build-up, no clear transitional forms, just a sudden arrival of complex life. And this isn't just ancient history. The same mystery appears closer to our own origins. Homo sapiens emerged roughly 300,000 years ago, possessing advanced brains, language capacity, and complex culture. Yet there's no clean evolutionary bridge from earlier hominids that explains such a rapid leap. Even scientists who reject alternative theories admit these gaps are glaring. But instead of rewriting the story, mainstream academia often smooths over these jumps, quietly filling the gaps with hypothetical creatures that haven't been found and might never have existed. The result? A timeline that's more duct-taped together than we're led to believe. And the bigger the gaps, the more room there is for another possibility, that something or someone may have intervened in our story. Long before Darwin, long before modern science, our ancestors recorded their own origin stories, and many of them are eerily consistent. From Mesopotamia to Mesoamerica, ancient texts and myths tell of beings who came from the sky or from the heavens to the earth. The Sumerians called them the Anunnaki, powerful figures said to have shaped humanity for a purpose. In the ancient Americas, the Maya and Aztec spoke of feathered serpent gods like Quetzalcoatl, who brought knowledge and civilization. Across Africa, the Dogon people preserved detailed astronomical lore about Sirius. Knowledge, they claim, came from non-human teachers. These accounts share a recurring theme that humanity was made, taught, or changed by external forces, often described as gods, but acting with technology and knowledge beyond our own. Critics label these as myths, symbolic tales of creation. But the level of detail, from star maps to advanced mathematics, raises a question: how did supposedly primitive people know things that modern science only confirmed thousands of years later? And if these were simply symbolic, why do so many of these stories point to the same motifs? A pre-existing, less advanced human or proto-human, a descent of advanced beings. The imparting or imposition of language, agriculture and laws, and often a warning that the gods will one day return. Rather than separate cultural inventions, these could be fragmented memories of real encounters recorded in the only language ancient people had available: the language of myth. If we strip away the mythic language and look at humanity through the lens of genetics, an unsettling picture emerges. Modern humans are biologically unusual. We appeared suddenly in the fossil record with larger brains, complex language capability, and a level of self-awareness that sets us far apart from our closest primate relatives. The problem? The speed of this change defies the slow crawl of Darwinian evolution. Mainstream science calls it the Great Leap Forward, a mysterious surge in cognitive ability around 50,000 years ago, but it doesn't explain why it happened so suddenly or how. Geneticists have also identified oddities in our DNA. We have a fusion of chromosome 2. Humans have 46 chromosomes, while all other great apes have 48. 2 ancestral chromosomes appear to have fused, complete with fused telomeres and a vestigial centromere. This is not common in nature, and it looks deliberate. The FOXP2 gene is linked to speech and language ability. This gene is nearly identical in humans and Neanderthals, but ours has subtle differences that make advanced language possible. Those changes seem to have happened in a narrow time window. And what about endogenous retroviruses, viral DNA sequences embedded within our genome? Most are ancient, but some look suspiciously like engineered insertions. These genetic quirks could be random mutations. But if we take the ancient records seriously, they may instead be fingerprints of an intervention, a moment when the gods of old modified an existing species to create what we now call human. And if that's the case, the question is no longer if we were altered, but why? Were we upgraded for our benefit, or altered for someone else's plan? If the official story of our past were complete, there would be no need to hide anything. Yet history is full of discoveries that vanish from the record. Artifacts quietly removed from museums, skeletons destroyed, and archaeological sites closed to further study. Take the Nampa figurine, found in Idaho in 1889. This tiny human-shaped figure was pulled from 300 feet underground beneath layers of lava and sediment dated to millions of years old. Mainstream science dismissed it as impossible because it suggests humans were around far earlier than textbooks allow. Or the countless reports of giant skeletons unearthed across North America in the 19th and early 20th centuries, some reportedly over 10 feet tall. These finds were often sent to institutions like the Smithsonian, only to disappear. Skeptics say they were mismeasured or hoaxes. Yet the sheer volume of documented reports, many from credible witnesses, makes blanket dismissal difficult. Then there's Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, a 12,000-year-old megalithic site that rewrites the timeline of civilization. It shows that complex societies capable of monumental architecture existed thousands of years before the agricultural revolution. The pattern is clear. When evidence threatens the established narrative, it is explained away, buried, or literally destroyed. Whether these sites and artifacts point to an advanced pre-Ice Age civilization, or something even stranger, perhaps a hybrid race with capabilities we no longer possess, one thing is certain: we are missing critical chapters of our own story. And into this shadowy space steps an ancient text that may hold some answers, the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch is not part of most modern Bibles, but for centuries it was considered sacred scripture by early Christians and Jews. It tells a story that is far stranger and perhaps more revealing than anything in Genesis. In its pages, Enoch describes the Watchers, powerful beings who descended to earth. They took human wives, fathered hybrid offspring known as the Nephilim, and passed forbidden knowledge to humanity, such as metallurgy, enchantments, weapon making, astrology. These were not the benevolent gods of Sunday school, but beings who corrupted the natural order. The Nephilim were described as giants, so vast that they consumed the Earth's resources and turned to violence. This spiral into chaos, according to the text, was one of the reasons for the Great Flood, an act to wipe away the corrupted bloodlines and start again. Mainstream scholars dismissed the Book of Enoch as myth or allegory, but it dovetails eerily with the impossible archaeological finds, the giant skeletons, the lost civilizations, the inexplicable leaps in human knowledge. Even the Dead Sea Scrolls contain fragments of Enoch, suggesting its influence was once far greater than modern religion admits. If these accounts hold even a kernel of truth, they raise a disturbing question. Were human beings shaped, and perhaps enslaved, by forces we mistake for gods? And if so, is that influence truly gone? Darwin's theory suggests a gradual chain from ape to human, yet the fossil record shows no clear missing link bridging that gap. Instead, anatomically modern humans seem to appear almost overnight in evolutionary terms, with larger brains, advanced tool use, and complex language. This abrupt leap raises the possibility of genetic intervention. Ancient Sumerian texts speak of the Anunnaki fashioning humans as a labor force. The Book of Enoch describes heavenly beings altering the human bloodline. Could the missing link be missing because it never existed? Because humanity was engineered? Modern science has reached a point where such intervention is no longer fantasy. CRISPR gene editing, synthetic biology, and DNA manipulation are already altering crops, animals, and even human embryos. In some cases, medical interventions in recent years have been alleged, and in some studies observed, to alter or interact with human DNA. While mainstream debate rages over the scope and permanence of these changes, the precedent is set, and that humanity's genetic code is no longer untouchable. This raises a chilling possibility that just as in ancient times, human DNA could again be modified to suit the needs of those in control. In the age of transhumanism, these changes could be marketed as upgrades, while in reality they may serve to make us more dependent, more trackable, or even less human. If our origins were shaped by intervention, then perhaps our future will be as well, unless we reclaim sovereignty over our own biology. Throughout myth and scripture, there is a recurring theme. The gods came down, shaped humanity, and promised to return. Whether in Sumerian records of the Anunnaki, Mesoamerican accounts of Quetzalcoatl, or the Book of Enoch's Watchers, the storyline is eerily consistent. Beings from the heavens arrive, influence human development, then vanish, leaving a prophecy of their return. In the modern era, the language has changed. The gods are now framed as extraterrestrials, interdimensional beings, or advanced civilizations lost to time. UFO disclosure movements, declassified military footage, and sudden spikes in mainstream media coverage have reignited the question. Are we being prepared for contact or for control? Some researchers argue that the return might not be a literal re-landing, but a technological re-entry into our lives through AI, genetic modification, and the merging of human consciousness with a machine hive mind. In this sense, the return may already be happening, disguised not as chariots of fire, but as neural implants, global surveillance grids, and systems that bind us to digital reality. The danger lies in forgetting the lessons of our past. If ancient beings once took control of our genetic and cultural trajectory, then the modern equivalent may be doing so again under the guise of progress. The gods may not have left at all. They may simply be rebranding themselves for the 21st century. Whether the return is physical, spiritual, or technological, the question remains. Will humanity greet them as saviors, or recognize them as the same jailers wearing new masks? If history has been rewritten to hide our origins, then the first act of liberation is to remember. Not the sanitized history handed to us in classrooms, but the deep, unbroken thread of human experience that connects us to our true source. Reclaiming the human story means peeling away layers of imposed narratives. Darwin's selective theory, Sitchin's flawed translations, state-approved archaeology, and piecing together the fragments ourselves. It means seeing the commonalities between ancient myths, oral traditions, and forbidden discoveries not as coincidence, but as parts of a suppressed record. But this is not just an academic exercise. Whoever controls the origin story controls the future. If we are taught that we are accidents of nature, easily replaceable biological machines, then the leap to transhumanism feels inevitable. If we instead see ourselves as deliberate, conscious creations, beings carrying a divine spark, then no amount of silicon, gene editing, or digital integration can erase that truth. Reclaiming our story requires courage. It means challenging the scientific orthodoxy, rejecting cultural amnesia, and trusting our own pattern recognition over official denials. It also means actively transmitting this knowledge to our children, to our communities, and to the generations that will face the full weight of the next creation project. The final choice will not be made by governments or gods, but by each of us. Do we remain edited, programmed, and domesticated, or do we restore the original blueprint and live as we were always meant to be?